Hello, my name is Alex from the Advent Label Applicator Company, and this is a video for an Advent 300 or 310 that has an ALR option. ALR stands for Automatic Label Registration or Automatic Lug Registration. It's specifically designed pretty much for these molded 1-gallon plastic containers. And the reason why we're able to register a label on these containers, there's first of all, our customers generally want the label to be facing, to be centered usually on this mold line, either on the front or on the back where the handle is. And the neat thing about the ALR option is that by adjusting this timer down here, I could place this label exactly over and over anywhere on this container. For this demonstration right here, we have a core, name of a core. And when I turn this on and drop this in, what we want to do is have essentially the globe, registered on this mold line. So when you stack these on the shelves with the handle facing the back, you have your label facing the customer. And what's neat about this is, if I put this in again, you can see right here we have perfect registration each and every time. It will skew about anywhere from 1/4 of an inch just because of these tires will slip a little bit, but generally I could do this over and over again. You can see it waits, it registers off the lug with this switch right here. Adjusting this timer, I can consistently get it to go over the label each and every time. You can see, boom, perfect, within 1/4 of an inch. And I think that those last two were right on top of each other. So that's the automatic label registration. Okay. Now, I'll put that to the side. And as you can see, the machine is a standard Advent 300. We've removed the shoulder to accommodate the registration switch. So when we put this container in, we're using one guide. We keep our hand here while it's rotating. And when the machine rotates, it hits this arm right here. And I'll turn it on just to show you. Boom, it hits. Now it's being registered, and then it sends a signal. The timer waits, and then it feeds a label. It only feeds one label, as you can see. And you can see, puts it right there in the middle. Alright? Now this timer, it is positionable. You can take off the cover, and there are screws here. You can move it forward and backwards. But generally we set it at the factory for these 1-gallon molded containers. They're fairly consistent, so you don't need to make any sort of adjustments over and oops. Allen wrench tool here. I'm going to grab that. Right. So that's the ALR, and let me show you let me go ahead and just show you some other options on the front. Let's say you're running a standard container where you don't need it to register. You could turn off the registration switch, which is down, pointing towards the registration off. You turn on the machine, and the interesting thing is when you put this in, it feeds the label on right away. And you can see it fed the label obviously on the opposite side. And it's going to be completely random. And generally that's fine for like most containers. But, and when most containers, when you don't need the registration, when you don't need the label in a certain place, that will allow you to go faster because it doesn't need to rotate and hit this switch before it feeds the label. It just feeds it right away. Usually we actually have a little delay on the side of the machine that's adjustable. We usually set it to 1/2 a second just to let the container settle when you put it into the carriage. Okay? So when you don't need to run registration, just turn it off and you can go as fast as you can. Putting the containers in, Label goes on right away, you take it out. When you need it to be registered, you put the switch on, turn on the machine, and you can see it waits. It has to do a full revolution before it feeds it on. You can see, here's the globe and the mold mark right on there. Okay? And you can see the label goes on very, very nicely. Especially this is a plastic label, which is one of the hardest to do. Okay. Now, just to show you, there's a timer here. And right now, it's a very, very sensitive timer. It's like 5 and 2 ticks. Okay. We have a locking knob because it is so sensitive. When this little lever is pointing down, we can't move it. Okay. Which is important because any type of small movement will create a lot of movement in the label. And I'll show you that. If I turn it to 5, turn it on, put the container in, keep my hand, press it up against the guide, and you can see, just by lowering the time, it fed the label a little bit sooner. You can see it moved it, by moving it 2 ticks, it moved it almost 2 inches. Alright? So if I go to, let's say here. Okay. That was actually increasing the time, alright? So it was actually waiting longer, because 6 is, to increase the time you turn it clockwise, to decrease the time you turn it counterclockwise. So let's say if I go to 4.5, you'll see the label should be right over here. And there it is. It started right there. That was that mark. And it labeled over those other labels. Okay? You can see how that causes it to move away from the center line of the container. So all you have to do is just do a little bit of trial and error. But once you find the number, which in this case I believe was just 2 ticks before 5, I'll take these off. Just taking those off. Turn on the machine. Make sure the registration is on. Drop it in. Keep your hand on the right side. And you can see it moved it back to the center line of the machine. If I need to fine tune it, I can just increase it oh so slightly. You can see by increasing the time, it moved it, and you can see it moved it about 1/2 inch, and there we are, dead center. Okay, so that is the ALR. Very, very simple to operate. We're not using anything sophisticated. We're not using a photo eye or anything like that. We're just using a simple registration switch. Very, very bulletproof. So that's a really nice feature of our ALR, and you can see it's very, very consistent. As far as operating the machine, as far as maintenance, loading the machine, please refer to the manual or our standard operation video. This video is just for going over the ALR, the automatic label registration. All right? So if there's any questions, we can always be reached at 800-846-7716. Thank you.